So essentially, I realized that I was spending a lot of time cold messaging people. So trying to find people that were relevant for Yavin. And with this lead generation, it helps me to have literally in like 3 minutes, a scoring system for the specific question I have today. The people that first and second degree that seem to be best positioned, plus the whole research, plus a draft message. It's a great starting point. And through that, generally, my cold messages have landed a lot better.
Welcome everyone. I'm delighted that we have Bettina Sosa, who is the CEO of Yavin, an automations platform, which we're going to get into a bit later in the episode. But first, Bets is going to show us a practical AI walkthrough for lead gen on LinkedIn. Bets, over to you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Excited to be able to show a little workflow that has been extremely helpful for me, especially as I've now transitioned into being a founder. So I'll explain where the idea came from, because I think that's what's the most useful for people to then also like kind of create their own automations out of this and do whatever they want with it. So essentially, I realized that I was spending a lot of time cold messaging people. So trying to find people that were relevant for Yavin. And so I was like either asking ChatGPT to create a list for me or Claude. And from there, then doing research on the person, creating the call message, connecting to the person and sending the message. Obviously, this takes a really long time. And I was like, surely this can be automated in some ways. The reality is that actually LinkedIn is incredibly gated. There's no like a specific API that you can use that, you know, like most platforms have. And so it's not something that you can legally scrape, if we would like to say it in that way. However, I was trying to think about, like, when I think about setting up automations, I always think about the data source, the work that like whatever needs to be done with AI. So I write the steps of the work and then what I want the output to look like. So really here, the input is one of the things that I notice when doing all of this lead generation is that like you want to get connections that are as warm as possible. So I would generally go for the people that are on first connections and then from there be like, see if they're connected to someone that could be important to me. And through that, generally, my cold messages has landed a lot better. So I was like, okay, what is the data source that I need here? I need all of my connections and who their second like possible list of people around them are. And the output that I want is people that are relevant to my ICP plus a message that is well crafted with information on who they are, who I am, what the project is, and what I want to get out. So I did some research and I think, share my screen now. But essentially, I realized that you can basically download your LinkedIn connections, which you can probably find very useful for like many different things. Yeah, so one of the things that I realized is that you can basically download all of your connections. So if you go into settings and privacy, and you go into data privacy, you'll be able to download your data. As you can see, I downloaded my last connections 2 days ago. It's a folder where you have connections, but you'll have a lot of other things like data that LinkedIn has on you on like your targeted ads and like your metrics on posts and things like that. So you can imagine how all of this very rich data you can use for other things related to LinkedIn, like engagement, etc., which I yet need to do. So this is for now just for lead generation. Bear in mind that this might take between 24 to 48 hours to arrive to your inbox, and it does go to spam. Like every single time is gone to spam for me. But what we will want is the connections CSV. And what I then did is I uploaded it to Google spreadsheet, literally just upload your CSV. And what you're going to go is into, this is already my created app, but you're going to go into extensions and there's this very useful thing called app script. So basically, I'm not going to scroll up because they show some of my API keys, but essentially with Claude, you can do this with Claude. I changed some things as I'm a software engineer, but I am more than happy to share my app script with you guys. But essentially what this is doing is here I explain my product very simply. You can expand on this. I've made it quite simple for now. My ICP, so founders, freelancers, solo operators, etc. And then my voice. What this is doing is basically fetching every single person that is on your CSV of LinkedIn connections. I'm basically searching like who they are, like whether they might be important for you. So they're gonna rank this person into like whether they're relevant to you or not. So it's like this is the Anthropic call. So this is the ICP scoring, and it's literally at the moment just like with text. And that's how you get basically the scoring for your closer network on who, whether that person is relevant to your current product that you want to push out, why they're relevant, and with full search. So if I do run it, the output looks like this. I know it's kind of crazy, but you can also upload this to Claude to help you out, sort it out. But this is the messages that it creates for me. Why it selected these people and the context on who this person are. So in case I want to change stuff, it will basically write me like what they've done, like why they're relevant, etc. And this has been incredibly useful for me to land those initial warm connections. If you go one step on top of that, you might want to use this API called Exa. So Exa, it allows you to do 1,000 free calls per month, and it basically does web scraping for the connections around that warm, like first connection. So this is how we get the second level of people. So you're just gonna go into Exa. And you can get an API key. I already have mine. I show you. I hope it doesn't show it. Okay, no, it just shows the first part. This is the balance that actually Exa gives you for free. I mean, I had like $20. And as you can see, it's extremely cheap to run this on loads new people. So once you've already exhausted your full list of closest connections to you, you can start running Exa on top of your warmest connections or new connections and get new connections with a full web search of enriched leads of message. This is people that I didn't know, like Akash and Ernesto and all these people. And this Justin Beimani is someone that I have as a connection. And so sometimes I always add their LinkedIn profile to see if like it's useful or not. And yeah, honestly, this is it. This has been extremely useful. There is no way to automatically send these things unless you're using Hermes or Claude Code. But to run your extension, you literally just do, you just run it, literally. Oh, sorry, so you can get the ICP score. So you just run it, and it'll start putting the stuff back into the spreadsheet.
From the spreadsheet, you'll take a draft message and then you'll tweak it before reaching out to
Yeah,
that person?
so yeah, often yes. So like one of the important things here is that I always have all of their LinkedIn profiles so that I can connect with this person directly. I normally always send a connection and I wait for them to come back to me and then I send them a message. I found that to be more useful, especially for people that have like that are very high up. I find that to be more useful than sending them an email. I think emails almost never land, personally, at least for me. So that's how I find it most useful. And yeah, I am setting this up for my Twitter connections as well, just to see like other people that I can connect as well. Because right now what I'm trying to find is message them so that they can onboard into Yavin. But what I see this very useful as well is to create proposals. Like you could create like a scraping system with the same with Exa and your full connections from LinkedIn. And basically search like maybe if they're missing something to create like a proposal or like whether they've ever asked for someone looking for, I don't know, like a graphic designer or someone that needs to be a ghostwriter or something to do with communications. Like they often post on LinkedIn. So this could be a good way to try and find those things as well. Yeah. And I also have it on TypeScript if anyone would also want to download it. The last thing I wanted to share is that I also just released it on my code base. So you can go ahead and download the app script directly. And then also, if you'd rather run it on your computer, you basically put in their lead CSV from LinkedIn directly in here. And you just run like npm start. And this will like start finding you all the relevant people with Exa and using Claude Code as well to enrich each person in case other people find it useful.
And so where can we find this? It's on your GitHub, is it?
Yeah, I'll share the link on the GitHub, but basically these functions are very simple. You can always ask Claude Code to change them for you. I've added I asked Claude to basically put like a little title for each one of them. So this is the ICP sorting. You can just basically change the names of the people that you're trying to find. This is like basically for Claude to know what my product is. Like you can change product for whatever like question you need, like while you're creating this lead generation. And then this is for Exa, so to enrich the person with even more web context, and also using Exa for the second degree prospects around my own connections.
And so how have you used it practically? What results have you gotten from this?
I find a lot more helpful to connect to people that I have connections in common. But not only that, also if like I tell them like, oh, I know this person or I've talked with this person, obviously you check the list, and if someone that you connected like a long time ago and you didn't even remember, sometimes I'll change the message. But often I feel like it really helps. It's like, hey, I'm a friend of X, and like I know that you're doing this and this things, I'm doing these things, do you have 15 minutes for a chat? With this lead generation, it helps me to have literally in like 3 minutes a scoring system on for the specific question I have today, the people on that first and second degree that seem to be best positioned, plus the whole research, plus a draft message. I never sent the exact draft message. I always change it a bit, but it's a great starting point. And yes, I was mentioning it's short and sweet, but very useful. As you can see, starting the second part, finding second degree prospects.
Nice. You've also told me that you can connect to Granola or your note taker, and then you can have a lot of data on somebody you're about to have a meeting with.
Yeah, that's actually something that we have integrated in Yavin because it's very useful. In fact, this is Yavin, by the way, my product.
Okay.
And
what is Yavin?
Yavin is an AI assistant that lives in your menu bar on your top of your notch. Basically, this area is called the notch. And it's an AI notification center most. So basically, it looks through all of your connected apps. I have email, Telegram, Slack. I also have iMessage, and it basically prioritizes on the ones that you haven't followed up yet, the ones that you're at it, and basically the ones that need most urgent attention. And with one click, you can basically respond to any of them. So Yavin creates a draft with full context on who this person is, how you know them, whether you've connected to them before. Part of this context comes from the fact that you can connect your previous notes. So it creates like automations every morning for who you've talked, like for all of your meetings. For instance, right now we created like a whole meeting prep for this specific lead gen automation, and it just talks about who Shane is, what we talked about last time, which was just a couple of days ago, and it gives me like an incredible brief, like how we talked about AppScript and no Zapier required, which is what I'm explaining today. That we talked about downloadables that I promised to participants, and then I didn't send them to you, by the way. It's a follow-up item that Yavin is telling me about, which is funny. And not only that, but also we have some really fun commands that you can use also with full context. So if you, for example, even on this, let's see, something that I would like to change. So let's say that I want to change my like ICP or like change the voice of this. I can just use Option D to rewrite in a sassy voice. This obviously is very useful to respond to LinkedIn messages as well in one click, or like also for cold messages. I now, instead of like running this whole thing, I run this for the lead generation, but actually the draft of the messages, I'm using Yavin because it just has context of what I'm working on fully. So it's much faster. And then you can also use Option A to ask anything in your computer, like, you know, what this script does. Like, can you explain to me what this piece of code is doing? Obviously, generally, like here, I would have Claude Code and I would ask this directly. But the whole point is, like, imagine if you're using a completely new tool, or you're like, I don't know, imagine if you've never used Illustrator. Illustrator has so many tools. Like, you could ask Option A, and with full context as well of your day to day, ask, hey, like, I want to do this, whatever effect. Like, can you tell me where the tool is? And it will tell you where it is. Or like, you might see a person on Twitter that you find interesting, and you like ask it, hey, can you find this person on LinkedIn for me? I want to connect to them. Or is this person relevant to my work? Or if you need to translate anything, it also does it for you.
And then how secure is all the data that you have in Yavin?
Great question. So this is something that we care a lot about, especially as I used to work in privacy and blockchain. So in fact, everything is local. So we don't see any of your data. We're not using it to train anything. That's one of the reasons why we started with making it all Mac native. Apple is really great at giving us accessibility without like compromising your privacy or maybe downloading something risky. The idea is that from here we'll have more space to create even more automations for you. We're just doing it one step at a time because, again, we care a lot about your privacy, so it needs to be slowly, keeping everything locally.
And then as part of this, you were looking into some of the automations that people who were non-coders were keen on. Did you come down with a short
exactly.
list?
Yeah, I did. So one of the reasons why Yavin has started with inbound prioritization from all different apps is like, funnily enough, one of the things that people spend most time doing is looking at their notifications and writing follow-ups from proposals and previous notes and things like that, including like payment reminders. So this is why we've integrated this feature first on Yavin, so that you don't get unfocused on your work and you have reminders and follow-ups that maybe they got buried around. Maybe you looked at the email and then forgot to respond. These are things that are kept surfaced on Yavin as well. Another one was for content. A lot of people want like to analyze their content, to get automations on like scraping other people that are in like adjacent spaces, and basically get like a full draft on, I don't know, like possible ideas of new content, how you could maybe create new, like a new trend, like follow a new trend or things like that. I think it's a very interesting one. I think, funnily enough, with Option D, if you're doing Twitter, not like Instagram, but if you're doing Twitter, you can very quickly draft posts with just one button, with context on who you are and your voice, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I think those were the two that people talked about the most. Like inbound just kind of has all of this like follow-ups, payments, all of these things.
And so what are the plans going forward? What are the new features that you're planning to integrate soon?
So meeting prep was, I guess, like one of the third or fourth things, and especially talking with founders was one of the things that people wanted the most. The next automation that we'll create is probably connected to LinkedIn. It is one of the platforms that people use the most nowadays. We're working on it because you can't just scrape LinkedIn, as I said at the start. It is illegal. So it's not like you can do it. There are there are ways to basically try and find relevant people in other ways that wouldn't go against LinkedIn's code of conduct, if we put it that way. And our idea is to do something like this. So you create like basically leads, depending on one, like from all of your emails and everything that's going on your inbound, possible interesting leads to your work, whether that is to send a proposal, whether that is to connect for your company, something like that. I think the third one is a command T. So anything on your computer, you take a screenshot and you add it as a to-do. To have to-dos from all of your inbound. So like a proactive to-do list.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to write your own to-dos. It writes it for you. So yeah.
I usually just use Whisper for my to-dos. I'll just throw that into Claude and tell it to organize it.
Yeah, Whisperflow is pretty good. It's interesting because I feel like, I don't know if you watched the WWDC, which is the Apple announcements. I think Siri has become a lot better. And so you can basically do like with command space, so like the command palette that you use for searching things, you can talk to Siri and ask it anything, and it also transcribes everything for you real time. And so you could be to Siri like, hey, can you put all of these things on my notes? And then you're like, blah, 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 blah. Not that I didn't want to like delete Whisperflow, because I agree it is so good. I've used Whisperflow with Claude. Now I'm just throwing random stuff, but with Claude and Claude Code. So I'll just talk to my Claude Code sometimes when I'm even cycling or something, because you can connect it to your phone and then it'll like send it directly.
Right.
Not saying that it always does the good job, especially if you're not seeing what it's changing. But it's been really fun to do these little things.
Then are you typically verifying the code once once you ask Claude to build something for you? Do you typically review it? How involved are you?
I would say I'm pretty involved. Like I generally try and write tests for it. If a test is not necessary, I still don't give it like a full proposal and make it like, hey, just do this whole thing at once. It works for some things, but I think as you're developing an app and you want it to be robust and right now it's going to over 150 people since we launched it like 2 weeks ago. Everybody has different Mac versions. You can't just like vibe code it. Sadly enough, like you need to make sure that, for example, every single feature that you're adding, you've tried and tested several times. I'm often like changing things manually myself in Swift, which has been fun to learn a new language. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm just like letting it do whatever. Also, like then the organization of files is an absolute disaster. And so even finding where a bug might have happened is a bit annoying. That said, I swear every single week they're just becoming better and better. So I think if you're just really good at thinking about the system, like what I said before is like, what is the input of like the data that you want to use and what is your output? And then in the middle, think about like Exa, for example. I found Exa just by being like, oh, I need like a scraping system or API that is free or almost free and that is not banned by LinkedIn. They can find people from my own connections. And Exa came up as the top, like I didn't know it before. And then also searching about like, how can I get any data from LinkedIn? I found that you can actually download it as a CSV that I didn't know about before. So I think sometimes it's about, thinking about the system, and then that's the best way to create your own automations of like, what's the data I use today? What is the output of that?
Yeah.
Create the automation in the middle.
Nice. But software developers' jobs are pretty safe, according to what you're saying, given that vibe coders are more challenged in building something that's robust.
Honestly, I'm not going to be a naysayer and be like, oh yeah, they're never going to take our jobs. I think software engineers' jobs are changing. And I think probably the bar to be a software engineer is higher than it was before. Like you need to be good at understanding problems and solving systems, which is the basics of engineering is like just being a very good problem solver. I think that there was a lot of software engineers that got let go maybe at the start, and then the realization is that things are just moving so fast that you still need the same amount of people. It's just that the output needs to be 10 times faster, and who's the best to create this output 10 times faster is still software engineers. And so I think that's why there's still so many software engineering roles being open. That doesn't mean that models are becoming like they're not as good at coding. I think they're incredibly good. It's just like now we can create a million things much faster.
Yeah.
And we can also kind of stop it when it's doing something silly when you're like, I don't think this is the right way to build this. This feels very inefficient. So is that also that intuition? What I'm worried is more the software engineers that maybe have come in always in the vibe coding era where I'm not sure if that intuition is still there. But that's my point of view. I think it's going to be the same with knowledge workers in terms of like, maybe people might get fired at the start because companies think that they can do with less employees, and then realize that you actually need all hands on deck still because everybody's just moving so fast that you still need as many people. It's just the output is faster.
Yeah, exactly. And I see that with content. I mean, there's almost a higher demand now for good quality content. If you write 100% in a human way, you're in far higher demand than you were before. So
exactly. No more AI slop, please.
no more AI slop. Exactly. Here.
Yeah.
And if people want to find you, where should they do that?
I guess we'll put my LinkedIn and my Twitter just below, but also my website, yavin.ai. Would absolutely love to see people join the wait list. And as we progress, also be part of our founding beta users, which we will be giving a lot more perks as we grow. And yeah, very exciting.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Beth. Really appreciate the time.
Of course.